The City of Albuquerque Public Art Urban Enhancement Division and Department of Arts and Culture proudly present Take Another Look. Built on the foundation of two city ordinances, Art in Municipal Places, and the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, the Public Art Urban Enhancement Division provides funds to artists to create art for the public, as well as arts organizations for arts and cultural programming. Join us as we discuss everything related to funding artists in the public realm with host Joni Palmer.
Hello, I'm Joni Palmer, and welcome back to Take Another Look at Albuquerque's public art. Thank you for tuning in today for the second of three episodes about the city's Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, or as we'll refer to it probably pretty frequently as UETF, and the unique residency that it offers. Today I will be talking with artist and community organizer Gael Luna. Am I pronouncing that right? Gael.
Yeah.
And Deputy Executive Director for the National Institute of Flamenco, Dr. Annie D'Orazio. We're going to talk about their artist journeys and kind of how they've come to be where they are in their practices of life as well as artistic. And this is our opportunity to really dig into the Artist Resiliency Residency. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my two guests today. Gael is a transgender immigrant artist and community organizer in Albuquerque. Originally from La Frontera, Ciudad, Mexico, they migrated to the U.S. at the age of 7. So you've been here for a little while.
Yeah.
For over a decade, Luna has collaborated with communities throughout New Mexico to enhance access to education and healthcare for immigrant families. Their community work has inspired them to create art centered around and driven by community. Their intersectional identities inspire them to visually translate stories of people connected to the places they call home, their culture, and their identities. Luna received a bachelor's degree in media arts and Spanish from the New Mexico Highlands University in 2014. During their senior year, they were awarded the Seabury Fellowship and developed their body of work, Joteria Undocumented, a community-based art project exhibited in New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. They have since collaborated with various community-based organizations in New Mexico and nationally. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me here today.
And Dr. Annie D'Orazio is the Deputy Executive Director, congratulations on the promotion,
Thank you.
for the National Institute of Flamenco. Flamenco provided a stabilizing force in Dr. D'Orazio's life as an adolescent, empowering her and giving her a path to continue learning both within and outside of formal settings. She participated in BRIC, B-R-I-C, the Banff Research in Culture Summer Program. And is Demos Life in Common, was that the project that you were working on?
That was the theme. So every summer there's a different theme.
Okay.
It's a program of the Banff Center, and I did that when I was in graduate school.
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
I hear it's really pretty fabulous up there. She earned a doctorate in English literature from the University of New Mexico in 2017. A longtime student of and advocate for flamenco, she believes that the arts and humanities should be accessible to all people. She combines her academic background with her lifelong study of the arts and humanities, applying her analytical and writing skills to excel in grant writing, legislative advocacy, and strategic planning. In addition to her work at the Institute, she mentors and coaches researchers and writers, offering years of professional experience as well as her great love for helping people with their creative projects and bringing them into being. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Joni. Thank you, Gael. I'm really excited to be here with you today as well.
Likewise.
All right. Now you've learned a little bit about my guests, but I'm going to ask them to add a layer in a bit more, give us a little bit more beyond that very brief bio, because there's a lot more going on there. So a preface to the conversation. In the previous episode, I talked with Public Art Urban Enhancement Division staff Eric Werner and Madrone Matishik about the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, and we talked a little bit about this artist residency, so today we'll be diving into that. Established in January 2022, the groundbreaking UETF Resiliency Residency program is a self-paced, at-home residency that encourages artists of all mediums and disciplines to play, experiment, research, and create. The 2022 residency cycle funded 90 artists and 5 fiscal sponsor organizations, bringing Albuquerque plays, dance pieces, books, new research, and festivals. The 2024 residency cycle has funded 2 new fiscal sponsor organizations and 34 artists, 20 new artists, and 14 returning artists. So you are one of the 2024 artists, right?
Yes, I am.
And the National Institute of Flamenco was one of the 5 fiscal sponsor organizations in 2022, as well as a fiscal sponsor for some of the returning artists in this cycle. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, so I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about the residency. But first, let's start by you all telling us a little bit more about how you came to be where you are today and the kinds of projects that you're working on. So I noted just a few minutes ago that you're an artist and a community organizer. Tell us a bit about your artistic practice, your background, your media, your mediums, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be able to share about my work and be in conversations with y'all. So I decided that I wanted to be a digital artist. I am interested, I think in a combination of my interest in tech and being a little geek and playing with computers since I've grown up. And so I did my undergrad in media arts. And I was also already very active in the community at that time when I was when I was in school. And I wanted to play with these digital tools to be able to create the stories of individuals and using primarily Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, and visually translating those stories so that I can be able to install them in different mediums and able to install them in large formats, print and paper, print and wood, and different objects, and create installations that can be able to share the narratives of the people who I'm working with, as well as creating prints that are accessible for people to have. And so my work, I primarily, I'm a visual artist who is using all these tools to visually translate the stories of communities, and primarily trans, queer, and immigrant and working class folks. And so, and that started, I became an organizer, I stepped into organizing in a very young age, primarily because of the lack of access my family and I had due to our immigration status and the impacts deportations were having on families like my own. And so I moved to New Mexico when I was 17 because I didn't have an opportunity for a higher education in other states. And so, and here in New Mexico, when I moved out here, I was undocumented at the time, and in high school, in New Mexico, I was always wondering, like, why here and not in other states, right? And so that where undocumented people had access to driver's license and in-state tuitions. And I learned that it was because people coming together to talking about their experiences and their stories and finding solutions for change. And I think that I fell in love with that. And I've been organizing in different campaigns here in New Mexico, and primarily and expanding access for immigrant families. And that really translated into my art and the way that I make art with others. I feel like my art, bringing folks together and talking about conversations about their stories and what they're going through. And for me, using my art practice, actually doing something like this, like audio recording, video recording, and doing photography in order to capture those stories and together really create something that create a story that is intersection with their sexuality and gender and culture and the places they call home. So then we create a visual where it can be a point of conversation where people can look at it and be able to questions and be able to shift hearts and minds and able to create that cultural shift, as well as challenge individuals and really working with community to be able to make that happen in our own communities overall.
So there's not really a separation between your being an artist and being a community organizer. I mean, they're one and the same, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I think that I carry all my organizing experience and bring it into my art in the way that I like bring people together. Let's talk about what we're going through, the challenges and connections to who we are and multiple identities. And creating visuals and stories are really aimed to uplift not only challenge narratives, but uplift them and empowering people and celebrating individuals. And so that's what I aim to do.
And how did you learn to be a community organizer? Did you have a mentor? Did you just kind of jump into it and kind of roll with it?
I think when I moved here in New Mexico, people here really accepted me with their open arms. And I went to Highlands University up in Little Las Vegas, and the local community was, there was a bunch of us where we landed at Highlands because there was no other way to have access to education in funner ways. And people here, we started getting engaged through student activism, through Mecha, and started organizing ourselves at Highlands, and started changing little institutions or little policies at school, and then really got engaged with United We Dream, and started working on the Dream Act campaigns and DACAs, and started working here with other immigrant movements like Dreamers. New Mexico Dreamers in Action, which was back in the day, and then New Mexico Dreamers in Action. And yes, they really got involved with other students, activists, and really pushing for those big policies.
Wow.
And so it was between all of us within the community, and really started when I was young, in that way.
Oh, that's very cool. You were lucky to have that kind of camaraderie, right? Yeah. Okay, so Annie, you are the Deputy Executive Director for the National Institute of Flamenco. So tell us a bit about what it is that you do and what you've been doing. You've been at the Institute since 2017. And also, how did you get to this place?
So I'll start I'd like to share a little bit about the organization, because the Institute itself has actually been an important fixture in Albuquerque since 1982. So the Institute was founded in 1982, and I mention that because it's pretty rare for a performing arts nonprofit organization to be around for that long and to continue to grow and thrive and remain rooted in community. And also growing and relevant and big tent embracing of lots of people. I think that's really special. The Institute was founded by Eva Encinas in 1982. She's Professor Emerita of Flamenco at UNM. She retired from the university in 2020. She's still very active as our founding director. She still provides totally invaluable leadership and mentorship to us as arts administrators, artists, teachers, and Marisol Encinas, her daughter, is the executive director of the organization. And Marisol has been an important mentor for me, both as a teacher, as a flamenco teacher, and then also as an arts advocacy professional, because I'm an arts administrator. It's my role to make sure that my colleagues who are working artists have access to things like pay equity and a stable working environment, and that they feel respected and they feel like we represent their work in a way that is dignified and intelligible and all of these things, right? And our organization it's very strong and it's large, but it's very much rooted here. The organization grew out of the Encinas family's practice of flamenco, which is a generational practice that they had as a family. And so our programs have grown very organically out of that. And we have we have a festival, which you might be familiar with, Festival Flamenco Albuquerque, which is in its 38th year this year. It's 3 years younger than me. And it's incredible. It's one of the most important flamenco events that happens outside of Spain. Right. It's the largest and oldest flamenco festival that happens outside of Spain. And we house a professional company, Hijastros, that just celebrated their 25th anniversary last fall. Wow. We have a school, the Conservatory of Flamenco Arts, where people of all ages, all backgrounds, all abilities are welcome to come and study starting at age 3. And we have community classes for beginners, for adults. We have a professional training track. We have a scholarship program. So it's made accessible in that way. We also saw, after the kind of height of the pandemic, that our demographics had shifted, and we wanted to make sure that we were reaching all of the people in community that our work is intended to reach.
Right.
So we started a program called Flamenco in Your Neighborhood, Flamenco en tu Barrio, and it's really grown a lot too. We started that in 2022, and we teach in community centers, free classes in community centers throughout the city, Bernalillo County. We do in-school residencies at public schools in Los Lunas. We are also starting some public school residencies in Taos and in Hobbs. And we teach a free community class up in Taos too. So we're really working hard to make sure that everyone who needs flamenco can reach it, because flamenco is a really profound art form, and it's really cathartic, and it's really powerful, and I think it expresses the fullest range of human emotion, and it's complex. You know, it comes from a complex place. It comes from a lot of mixture and conjoining and shifting of many cultures, and so we work hard to make sure that all of that is reflected in our work, and that we really welcome as many people as we can and continue to honor the legacy of the art form and the family that has grown this organization into what it is. Right. And there's lots of people who work for the organization as artists, as working professional artists. Our company is salaried, which is awesome. Wow. And I mean, you know, we want to continue to work on that and make that better, but we're really proud that we pay our artists for rehearsal time. Yeah. You know, because that's it, right? Like, we talk a lot about creativity and a lot about expression, but it's hard to do that when you are piecing together your income out of multiple jobs and these sorts of things. So all of that to say, I'm very proud of the work that I do. And you asked me, tell me about what you do, and what I do, or how I see my role, is to make sure that everyone with whom I work, all of my colleagues, whether that's volunteers or young interns or the people for whom I work, that everyone has the tools that they need to do their job, whether that's teaching in the studio or it's what they need for a production. But I see it as my job to make sure that everyone has the resources and the support and the time and space to do what they need to do. That's a big job. It's an awesome job.
A big and awesome job.
It's an awesome job.
Yeah.
I got involved with the Institute as a student, actually, too. So I've been a student. Joaquin's been my teacher. Marisol has been my teacher. A number of the people who are in the professional company have been my teachers. So they mean a lot to me on a lot of levels, right? Yeah. They're not just like the colleagues that I go to the place where I earn a paycheck, but they've been my mentors at different times. And I've been a student, and then I was a volunteer. And when I finished my doctorate, Marisol talked to me one day and said, "Hey, do you need a job?" Because I was struggling to find a job, because academia is real crazy in its own way too, where you spend all this time and then the job market is pretty fierce. Yeah. So we talked, and I said, "Yeah, I really do need a job. Yeah, I'd love to work for the Institute," and I have continued to do so proudly since then.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's great. Well, let's now talk about the artist residency, and so I'm going to start with you in terms of let's talk a little bit about how you found out about the residency. Why did you apply? What in particular caught your eye?
Yeah, I think that I decided to apply because I was already in the space of like, I had this vision for my next body of work, which is the Lucha Libre Trans Queer Art Espectacular, and I was looking for funding and looking for opportunities, not just in funding, but partnerships where I can expand my ideas or be able to, get the support that I need. And some sort of vision happen. And I think at the time I applied, and I wasn't super sure what was going to come out of this like project, but I was like, something regarding sports and art and culture and bringing transness and queerness and all of it together. But I don't know how I'm going to get there, and I don't have the equipment. And so actually, I applied because it was like, okay, it's a self-paced, it's a disciplined, and it was really awesome to have the space to be able to do that, and as well the resources and the partnerships with. I was partnered with Catharsis Media Inc. And it was actually really cool to have the studios and the equipment, and because you were talking about like having all this and this equipment for folks to be able to produce their work, which a lot of the times made a huge difference in my work to be able to record in a professional settings with the conversations when I was in conversations with the athletes, with the participants in my project, and so. Which I feel like it took me into another level to be able to I'm like, okay, how can I use this audio? How can I use these photos or these other ways to engage and to create art? And so I thought they were extremely thoughtful partners and fun to work with. And, this opportunity, because it was like a self-paced, and like I felt like I had more opportunity to dream and to be able to create. And so then I applied for this. And because I had this residency, I also was able to get the Harvard Art Center's Social Justice Fellow to be part of it. And so I joined them both and be like, okay, I have the resources to create this big project, and as well as I have a space now to be able to display it in like a timeline and be like, okay, you got to do the work and you got to show it.
That's awesome.
That was really helpful, and just in partnership with the Public Art Office here, and be able to think about in those ways that we can bring them together. And when I have this art opportunities I make my art, I besides bringing people together to share their stories and talk about these issues, I like to present the art with them. And so we had this big community conversation. We had an open reception and had a big community conversation about the work and be able to engage. And so everything kind of aligned perfectly to like the style work that I like to do, more of a community engaged art project. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I mean, kind of an enduring throughout this whole podcast series. We've been talking about partnerships. We've been talking about respect. We've been talking about dignity and having the resources that you need to do the things that you want to dream yourself into. So this sounds pretty awesome for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a perfect fit for this project.
And tell us a little bit more about the project itself. So, and I hope I can pronounce this correctly, Lucha Libre Transqueer Arts Espectacular.
Yeah. So I wanted to make. I had this vision, or I'm an athlete myself, and just looking at the world that we're living. I'm an athlete. I'm a trans person, and an immigrant. All my intersectionalities, and so many of my friends are as well. And so with the current environment that we're living, where there is just a lot of there has been a lot of loss passed, right, with a lot of harm narratives regarding trans sports. And so I wanted to use my art as a vehicle to be able to share like the stories of the people who I surround myself every day, and the people who are like who I go to the gym and like get to work with myself, get to work on myself. I go to a queer-owned gym at Evolution Strength and Conditioning. And so where a lot of the folks who participated in this project are athletes there themselves, and the sports that they work on strongman. I'm a runner myself, and so I created this community engaged project where I worked with 5 different New Mexico-based athletes from different sports and backgrounds, and together talked about what it meant for us to be an athlete. What I meant for, in terms of our stories from young persons to like people who are athletes now, who just became an athlete when they were in 40s and who never thought they were going to be an athlete. So from different perspectives, and so the reason that I decided to share their stories on a Lucha Libre mask and use that avenue is because I was a former wrestler myself growing up, and I loved wrestling and the Lucha Libre. And wrestling was I was in the boys wrestling team, and in middle school and high school, and I that was like I didn't know I was trans, but it was like my way of being part of the boys and finding my gender identity and really connecting with my trans body, right? And so I thought that was a great avenue. And in Mexico, lucha libre, the Mexico mask, because there's wrestling in all over the world, right? But in Mexico, the mask is really, it serves as it features someone's true identity by recreating the mask instead of hiding it. And so that's what the mask means. And the mask serves as an object of transformation and empowerment to share somebody's characteristics.
Right.
And so to me, that that was just a perfect vehicle to be able to share the stories of these individuals, especially now, right? And the stories that we're sharing with folks are really centering stories of empowerment and honest expressions, and at the same time, like really like challenging the narratives that we're seeing right now, and showcasing like this is who we are as athletes and who we are as a human being. And so the mask the mask and caves were designs for 5 individuals, and then they were printed on like huge 44-inch by 66-inch and installed at Hartwood Art Center, where we had a community conversation, and I had the athletes joined us and talked about their experiences, like the best parts of it to the hard parts of it, and what people need to do now, especially as a lot of laws are being passed and preventing folks from participating, especially young people in sports.
And listeners, if you want to see some of this work, you can go to, why don't you tell our listeners about your Instagram page?
Yeah, definitely follow me at Arte Gael Luna. You'll find some of my work there. I'll be posting some of my graphics, including stories of the athletes themselves. Yeah, definitely I think that's important to know now.
Yeah. I was on your site the other day. Some gorgeous stuff.
Thank you.
All right. So, Annie, you've told us a little bit about NIF. Now tell us a little bit about how you became a fiscal sponsor in 2022, and then why did you continue? What is it that you all get out of fiscal sponsorship?
Sure. So the original call, if I remember correctly, a lot has happened since 2022. So if I remember correctly, the original call was for organizations to apply to be fiscal sponsors. And there were conversations that were happening in community before that, but we applied to be a fiscal sponsor, and there was a group of 5 organizations. It was the National Institute of Flamenco, Afromundo, Fusion, Cachette, and Puya Hubia, who were the 5 organizations that were the first of great organizations.
Yeah.
And that was a really great table to be invited to be a part of, to be a part of those discussions with people from UETF and with people from those organizations to talk about the residency and what people needed and what was the role of the fiscal sponsor. And of course, there's the nuts and bolts role of a fiscal sponsor, right, which is to take in the funds and to distribute the funds. But I think one of the most important things for us about the fiscal sponsor role was to make sure that we were also communicating with the artists, and during the first residency, that I was the main point of contact. So I would talk with people a lot. We would have Zoom meetings. We met in person a few times, and the artists and the resident artists in our group got to know each other pretty well and started to. Some of them collaborated on projects together. So that was really satisfying. I think we have a much smaller group this time.
Okay.
This time we have 3 resident artists as opposed to the 18 that we had the first time.
Oh, okay. Much smaller group.
But it's similar, right? In that it's making sure that I'm staying in touch with. So in the small group, it's my Don, Carlos Menchaca, and Lidon Patiño. So making sure that I'm in touch with them and checking in on how are they doing and how is the project going. And with the larger group, it was so exciting because it was the first time, and because there were so many artists with different backgrounds who worked in different media. There were musicians, dancers, muralists, photographers, installation artists. I got to meet a lot of really wonderful people in the community too, who I discovered had connections with flamenco, because so many people do here, right? Like even if they're visual artists, they'd say, "Oh yeah, I remember I came and I saw this show," and so it was impactful to hear about how our work was also, you only really have a couple of degrees of separation from anybody in this community, and that was cool. There were a lot of really great artists in the first residency round. I got to spend some time with Camelia Caton Garcia, and her installation was done in my neighborhood, and I didn't even know that.
Making all those
these things that you figure out, you're like, oh yeah, cool. We are. We use this term community all the time, right? Everybody's always talking about community, but we really are a community. And I think something that's very, very important about this project and will be important for future iterations of the project is how do we get more resources directly into the hands of more artists? Because in my role as an arts administrator and an arts advocate, there's a lot of things that I can facilitate and help and assist with, and that's my role, right? Like, that's my lane.
Right.
But I think it's so important too for all of the projects that have applications involved in all of these kinds of necessary things, to make sure that at the end of the day, the resources are going into the hands of working artists. So that's it was satisfying to be a part of that as well, and I hope that this residency project can continue and can be funded more and more robustly, so more resources are getting into the hands of more working artists, because we have so many working artists in Albuquerque, so many, and they all artists make our communities better and richer and make our qualities of life better. So I'm into being a part of the push for that.
Right. And we're going to have to wrap up, but before we totally wrap up, I mean, I know we could talk about this for quite a while, but it's really great to learn about your work, and I look forward to following it. And the National Institute of Flamenco, when is the festival?
We have lots of things coming up. So the festival is in June. It's June 20th to 28th. We also, speaking of collaboration, this is very exciting, members of Hijastros, our company, are going to be appearing in an opera with Opera Southwest called Llantos. And that opens February 16th. And then, of course, we have our spring season of Hijastros in April. And we're doing a show called Flamenco Fandanguero, Primos de la Raza Cósmica. It's a really beautiful performance. We did it last spring. We're refining and restaging some of the things, but people who are fans of flamenco, son jarocho, African dance and music, I would just say everybody come. It's going to be really beautiful. So lots going on. We have shows every weekend at Tabla Flamenco Albuquerque here in town, at El Farol in Santa Fe. We're always performing, always teaching, always performing.
Well, if you want to learn more, listeners, you can go to www.nifnm.org. Really great website that you can explore all the different events and offerings and things. And you have a calendar that you can look at. I was on the site the other night thinking about which ones can I go to. And so it's a great resource that we have. Before we leave, I'd like you each to give a little bit of advice to artists and also to fiscal sponsors. How can fiscal sponsors get involved? And also, what is your advice to artists who might apply for this residency? So let's start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity. I think that my advice is go for it. Just go for all of it. Just whatever project you have in mind, whatever stage is in, if it is not completely complete. I felt like I walked in here like, who knows what's gonna happen, and I felt like I created some of my favorite work, and I had a really good time in partnerships, and I feel like I wasn't expecting that to happen for me. Like, I had access to studios, I had access to equipment, and it was wonderful. And so I definitely encourage every artist. You're right, we're working artists, and we're always on the hustle. And so go for it. Just go and reach out. I feel like to the partnerships, to the folks who have been part of it, and to the organizations who host this artist, to reach out and ask some questions and see how we can get more artists in. And I really hope that this opportunity it continues to expand with more partnerships and thinking through what are the different ways that we can support artists, even with equipment, with resources, but even in brainstorming and bringing artists together and collaborating. I know as an immigrant artist, like I have different challenges as an artist. And so I think a lot of the times I seek myself wanting to just surround myself with artists. Well, first because art practice is lonely, just making art, drawing around in my studio. But I find I am looking for more artists to like think through some of the challenges of being a working class artist and problem solve, and who do we reach out to, and how does a relationship can look like. And so I think this is a great opportunity to be able to build something like that.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, it is.
That's tough to follow, Gael. I think our advice for fiscal sponsors would be to check in with your colleagues, and by colleagues in this case I mean resident artists, and listen to what their needs are and do your best to respond to them. And if you can't, connect them with people who have the resources to do so. So if someone needs space, for example, if someone needs space where they can install something, help them find that space, or direct them to the person at the UETF or at in the Department of Arts and Culture who can help with that. Because none of us have all the answers, and if we resource share generously and openly, then we do produce better work, right?
Right.
I think that can be an act of collective care and make people able to do their work, right, and lead more artful lives, and we all benefit from that.
Right, and these collaborations just make art better for and with people across, and especially for your institute, across the state, so across the city, across the region. So this is all really exciting stuff, and you can follow UETF. Just go to their website, which is www.cabq.gov/UETF. And any last thoughts?
My last thought is that it's really important for people to support programs that support artists. And programs that support art. And if you're supporting art, you're supporting artists, because artists are the people who do art.
And how about you?
Oh, I don't know. That was a good one. Yeah, I love that supporting programs of artists 100% and supporting artists as well all around and buying art.
Right?
Yeah, so definitely Albuquerque has an amazing artists, and I'm just excited that I get to be part of that as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for joining me today in the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gael. Thank you, Joni.
Thank you.
So stay tuned for our next episode, which will be the third episode in this set of 3 episodes about UETF. You can find this information and more in our newsletter, so you can go to the newsletter that you will find on the cabq.gov website /publicart/podcast. So thank you for listening, and I hope you will join us for our next episode, which will be released in March. We hope that after you've listened to this podcast, that you will take another look at Albuquerque's public art. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about the Albuquerque Public Art Program, the Public Art Collection, opportunities for artists, and so much more, visit cabq.gov/publicart. To learn more about the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund, visit cabq.gov/UETF. Tune in next time to take another look at the City of Albuquerque Public Art Urban Enhancement Division.